we do that, let me introduce Dr. Rowe, and then we'll get the tech going a little bit. Met this beautiful person a couple years ago through one of our colleagues and friends, Dr. Timothy Beard, who was serving at the time as the president of Pass Fernando State College. And he and I were pastoring together in St. Pete. So it was really cool. She runs the Impact CSC out of Tampa, and I'm not going to go into that because I'm sure she's going to touch on it a little bit. So we've been able to partner together for the last 2 years to do some dynamic summer camps that are pretty long, 6 to 7 days, and do some pretty cool things they put together. And when I go over there, I'm the discipline guy because everybody on staff is the ladies, so I become the general, but that's okay. We've been working well together hand in hand for the last 2 years, and it's been a blessing. So love having her here. So really tapped in. She's really gonna dive into some things. Let me go get the tech version for you. But y'all give it up for Dr. Rowe real quick.
And Josh, before you leave, I just want to give you special thanks for inviting me. This is the second year he's invited me, so
yes, ma'am.
I guess I didn't do too bad last year.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You know what? I don't actually need these PowerPoints. They just emphasize things, but I don't actually need them. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to waste a moment. So as Josh said, I run a nonprofit out of Tampa called Impact Community Service Corporation, or we call it Impact CSC. So it's a relatively new nonprofit. It's only about 3 years old, and they didn't really get things started until they hired an executive director. That's the position I hold for the last 2 years. So what we do, we primarily focus on youth. I believe this young lady right here was in our summer camp.
Me?
You weren't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And you, okay. But we focus on empowering youth ages 12 to 18 to make some informed post-graduation decisions. In other words, expose them to more than just academia. In other words, stuff they get in school, but also to expose them to career options, whether it be going right out of high school into college, or whether it be going to trade school or going into the military. But we want them to be prepared. So that is our primary focus. But we also have programs for health and wellness for adults and seniors, and hopefully one day we're going to try to do affordable housing. So that's kind of who we are. But that's not why I'm here today. Okay, I went on ahead to give you that backdrop and all because that's what Josh, promotes for me. But today our topic is bent, not broken. You decide. And I'm especially glad that Josh gave me a topic because it's pretty hard when they tell you, I want you to be a presenter, I want you to be a speaker, and then you got to fish around and try to figure out what I'm talking about. What's the focus, what's the audience, and all of that. He made it easy. Everybody's talking about bent, not broken, and you decide. So that helped me a lot. So you're going to see me do this and this a lot. Okay, they gave me glasses that is supposed to enable me to see out there and up close. They don't work. All right. So don't think I'm crazy or I got some kind of tick or something because I'm doing this all the time. Actually trying to see. So let me ask you something. You know what's interesting? Now you probably think that you can tell what a person is about simply by looking at them. How many feel like they pretty much can sum a person up simply by looking at them? Go ahead and be honest. Isn't that your first filter? Yeah, it's your first filter. You kind of look at them and you decide. So for instance, let me give you an idea of how looking at a person and trying to sum up what they're about, how that can be affected by different factors, okay? So we can't look at a person and base it on looks alone because maybe, all of us have had a bad hair day. And let me go ahead on and confess this. I'm having a bad hair day. It's underneath of this, okay? So that's why this wig is on. I don't mind telling you that this is a wig. Now, some of you who know about certain ethnicities, you can recognize a wig, okay? But for those of you who might be suspect, like, what you wearing? Yes, because I made a mistake. I'm going to digress from the topic for a minute to say that. 2 weeks ago, I had a nice little fro, but I didn't like it because it was coily. Coily is the term we use now for tightly curled hair. Okay. Those of you in the room may know about the other terms that we used to use 15, 20 years ago, but those are not acceptable anymore. So I was trying to loosen up my hair so I could manage it better. And I overdid it. I overprocessed it. So it came out of the sink.
The other one.
Okay? So y'all don't do that. Take some advice from me. Be happy with the hair you have. You know? Don't try to alter its shape or design, like braids and all of that, and that's fine because it's not altering your natural hair. But anyway, I had to shift. I had to come up with a solution because I wasn't ready to do the bald hair thing. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I just wasn't ready. Okay? I might get ready because I think the little bit of hair that's left probably didn't come off. So we can wait for new hair. Okay, I digress. All right, so I'm saying sometimes we look at a person, try to sum them up. We can't go on looks alone because they might be having a bad hair day. So you can't look at them and they come in the room and their hair don't look right and you think, she's sloppy. She look a mess. What's up with that? Because might have been having a bad hair day. Or maybe the person comes in with crumpled up clothing. Maybe their iron wasn't working, or maybe, nobody iron anymore. Does anybody iron?
My mom does.
Your mom does? Okay. And you do?
Yes.
I put it in that dryer that says, I think it says something like de-wrinkle. Okay, so that's what I do. But maybe that day, that person didn't use the iron or the de-wrinkle cycle on their dryer. Or maybe their electricity is iffy in their house. Now lately, because of the storms, my electricity's been going in and out, okay? So maybe they didn't have light that morning to see that they were picking out something that they really wanted to wear, and what ended up happening was their, I have a adapter, excuse me, I have an adapter.
You want adapter? Yes, please, thank you.
Oh no, ladies. That's always an issue, so I try to bring my stuff.
Look at you.
I come with my
You are
stuff.
organized.
It's in here, it's in here, it's in here.
Here, we'll look for it. Here, we'll look for
I mean, there it is.
Thank you.
it. There you go.
And I also have my clicker. Okay. You stick that in the side somewhere, then I can show it. All right, back to you guys. All right, so in other words, all of those factors play a part in someone's first impression, and this is the reason why they tell people when they go on job interviews, the first impression that people have of you is what they see. Before you open your mouth, before anything, before you lay down your credentials and say, this is my portfolio, they're looking at your looks. But we can't judge people entirely by that, because like I said, things happen. Now, based on that, based on the supposition that you looked at me, and based on what you saw, maybe you decided my financial status. Maybe you decided, maybe she got no money, I don't know. Maybe she don't. Okay, so you made a decision about my financial status. Or you might have made a decision about my age. Well, watch it, because I don't play about my age. Okay? So if you're coming up with some wild stuff, I'm going to check you. Okay? But you might have looked at me and said, what's she about this, about that? Or maybe you decided by looking at me whether I'm single, divorced, widowed, and all of, so all of those factors play into how people sum you up when they see you. Okay, let's say you looked at all of this and you came up with a profile, my profile, like similar to the ones you see on Facebook. Okay, I was wondering if we were plugged in yet. I have a little slide that shows the perfect family on Facebook. Because let's face it, when people post things on Facebook, for the large part, they post the good stuff. They post the pretty. Oh, look at my family, or look at our family reunion, and nothing's wrong with that. But very seldom do people post the other side. When they're, when they all falling apart, all of those things, or most definitely not when they're looking bad. Even though some people need to check because they do kind of be looking bad and you realize okay. Everybody don't have a mirror, I suppose. Okay, but that's the thing. So I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real with you. I meant to say this when we started. When you came into the door, I hope that you are going to keep it real with us. In other words, oh, there's a little lady from last week. Hey.
Hey, girls.
Here's some seats right here. Right here. Okay. In other words, take off any titles, any type of supposition you have about your prominence in life or in this room, take all that off. Because I'm gonna keep it real with you. Okay? I'm gonna let you see who I really am. So I want you to feel free to let me know who you really are. All right. Now, I want you to lean in closely. So let's pretend like it's just me and you in the room. And lean in close because I got something to tell you. Okay, they gotta stop talking. Yeah, I know you are, but don't even worry about it because I'm kind of like past all of that anyway. All right, so lean in closely because I want to tell you something. There was a time that I wanted to die. Are you surprised? Because see, when you saw me, I bet you didn't see that, did you? I wanted to die. So the reason, and I'm going to get into all of that later, but these things happen because sometimes if we allow ourselves to really look at our lives and think about the ups and the downs, and sometimes the downs outweigh the ups, and sometimes the down gets deeper, however, whatever that down period was in your life, it depends on how deep that period is, meaning how bad did it get. Okay, so all of those things help get us to the place where sometimes we just want a break. And for me, I just wanted to die. Okay. Don't worry about it, Josh.
You sure?
I'm sure.
You good?
I'm good.
But here's our IT
Oh, no,
person.
No. See, when y'all distracting me, so go ahead and leave. I appreciate the effort, but let it go.
IT here now.
And see, now you get okay, you did it back.
Sorry, I was trying to help.
I know you were.
It's
It's all right. It's all right. All right, so like I said, I had a very dark period in my life. And during that time, I had a real close acquaintance with Job. Anybody know who Job is?
Oh, I know.
Tell me.
who it is.
You? Oh, you trying to?
Like the actual person or like the one from the Bible?
When I say Job, what do you think about? Oh.
I think of my friend Job, who is in the other room.
Oh, that guy. Okay, not him.
Not Joe.
Somebody else. So when I say Job.
Joe.
Oh, okay. Hold on. They want me to test. Okay.
That's what I was asking.
That was cute. Okay, here we go. All right, let me get it on. And some of this I've covered already, so it looks like, let's see if this will work. Oh, no. Let's use slideshow. Okay, we talked about this already. Don't judge someone based on your appearance. That's the fake Facebook family. Okay, everybody look happy, including the dog. You know, it's amazing to me how they get these dogs. I see all these commercials with dogs and they're doing all these human type things. I think we need to be worried about that. I'm
That's
just
right.
saying. All right. So I talked about we're keeping it real. And you notice on the side there, seriously meaning, don't come in with any fake suppositions about yourself or somebody else. Let's keep it real. All right. So during a very dark period in my life, I felt a close acquaintance with Job of the Bible, that Job. Okay, so not the guy that came to the camp. He's cool though. You know, in Job 1:1, the writer declares that Job was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. So, I mean, Job had it going on. If any of you have studied that portion of the Bible, Job was the wealthiest man in the world at that time. Now, the world wasn't as big as the world, not meaning in size of the earth, but the world, meaning the people, things of that nature. It wasn't as big as it is now, but during that time, he was the wealthiest man in his sphere of the world. He was doing so well that Satan dared to wager with God that the basis of Job's allegiance was based on God blessing Job. In other words, the devil told God, the only reason he acting all good and everything is because you blessing him, you giving him stuff. And Job was blessed. He had a lot. He was very wealthy. So God allowed Job to be tested in some very serious and severe ways. I was going through my period of despair. When I was going through my period of despair and desperation, I felt like Job. That's what I felt like. You know, Job lost all his children, he lost all his fortune. You know, the Lord allowed Job's body to be touched where he was, you know, had a skin disease, and it was just disgusting. Everything about him now was not like it was before. That's the way I felt when I was going through my period of desperation. Now, sometimes we think that we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, because the reason I bring that up in relation to Job is he couldn't figure out why all this stuff was happening. You know, he was serving God, he was doing, you can, maybe this table here can push back a little bit.
She's good, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. So, Job was trying to figure out, why is this happening to me? You know, I don't think I've done anything wrong, and the truth of the matter is, Job did not. Job just did not know that there was a private battle going on between God and Satan that he was being affected by. But, coming away from Job's experience, sometimes we feel like the things that are happening to us that aren't pleasant, we try to figure out, it's not my fault, I'm not doing anything. You know, some of us who go to church and know the Lord Jesus Christ as Savior, we feel like we go to church every Sunday, sometimes we go during the midweek, and, you know, we feel that, you know, we're doing stuff right. And even those who might be in this room who do not profess Christ, because I don't make the assumption that everybody does, maybe you may be hopped up on the fact that you're not really a bad person. You haven't killed anybody, you don't cheat, you don't steal, and so you've used those factors to say, stuff shouldn't be happening to me because I'm not doing anything that bad. I'm better than this person, I'm better than that person. Okay, but in other words, we believe that doing the things that please God, or those things that are not socially compromising, should spare us from all of the bad stuff that happens in the world. We don't expect to be the one that's, you know, experiences a murder in the family, or you know, oh, I'm sorry, that's the notifications. Or let me take the volume down, maybe that'll help. Oh, the volume's off. Okay, so we just don't think those things should be happening to us. Job didn't think it should be happening to him, and in my case, what was happening to me, I didn't feel like should have been happening to me. And hold on, I know you're feeling like, why don't you keep talking about this stuff? What is it that happened to her? Okay, so if you have ever felt, there it is, abandoned, neglected, alone, all of that, you are not alone. See, if you felt like that there could be no God because of all the bad stuff that may have happened to you, or the bad stuff that may happen to you, you're not alone. I'm pretty sure every other person, maybe except some of the children, can share some point in their life where they felt like, you know, it can't be a God, because God wouldn't be letting this happen. So you're in the right room to talk about, to hear about rather, and if you want to discuss it, we're open to that too, about all of these feelings that we may have when we go through a dark period in our lives. So let's get into this. Now, I know you thought I've been leaving you hanging, and ever since I made the admission of, you know, having this dark period in my life and wanting to die. That was by design, and it does have a purpose. And I'll get back to it, but hold on. All right. This is a weeping willow tree. Have any of you ever seen a weeping willow tree? Okay. And when you saw it, it always leans towards the water. Now, I know that sometimes, every now and then, you'll see one on land and there's no water near, but that's very seldom. Now, the weeping willow tree is known for its beauty, but it also has certain drawbacks. See, it has an aggressive root system that can wrap itself around septic lines and plumbing lines, and if it's in your yard, it's going to cause a problem. You have to spend some money, because those roots are very invasive. You know, they grow really well, they take root, and they choke out some of the things that you need for your household. So that's not a good thing. Now, the other thing about the weeping willow tree is that you see the branches, they break off easily. Now, we're not talking about the stump or this part of the tree, but the things that out here, they break off easily. So if a weeping willow tree is in your, you know, backyard or whatever, if you're close to water, you're constantly picking up the debris from that tree. Now, the tree is also prone to pest and disease. And I could figure that because it's near water, where all kind of stuff is growing in the water and it reaches up to the tree, so it's real prone to those kinds of things. But more on the pleasant side, the weeping willow is also associated, well, I say pleasant, but it will mean the same thing with mourning, grief, and death due to its drooping branches. It always looks like a sad tree. I don't think I know anybody that even opts to have a weeping willow tree. You know, we see them along the road and maybe they sprung up on their own. But sometimes it makes the tree look like it's weeping, especially as it goes into the water, and some people have the superstition that's tears. But despite all of this problem with the weeping willow, it also symbolizes resilience, immortality, and the endurance of love and family. You see, the tree can bend without breaking, okay? And a lot of weeping willow trees are very old. And like I said, those little branches and things might fall off, but this tree doesn't usually break. All right, I experienced a weeping willow period in my life. This was my period of dark depression because I was dealing with a drug-addicted husband. Okay? So his habit was so bad that it cost, I went through 5 years of going through, you know, constantly having our bank account wiped out, our house up for, you know, they were going to take the house because we couldn't make the payments. I felt that I was working as hard as I could, but I couldn't keep up with how his drug addiction was draining our finances. It was draining, you know, our emotional health. My children were about the age of these children, the younger ones, during all of this time. And I could not figure out, you know, oh, wait, one important thing, his drug addiction led to me being threatened that the drug dealers that he owed were gonna snatch my daughter off the bus stop to pay as payment for him owing for drugs. It was bad. Okay. So imagine I'm at work trying to work, you know, he's not even working anymore. And I'm at work trying to work and I get a phone call from a neighbor. There's some strange people going in your house. They're taking things out of your house. Because see, what they were doing is they were going to try to get something of value to make up for what he owed them. So, you know, and it was nothing I could do. I mean, I called police, but by the time police come, they've left. And then that bad phone call where I was told anonymously, someone called and said, you better check for your daughter. Because if I don't get this money soon, you know, we're gonna take her. You know, so I'm trying to live, I'm trying to survive. And I can't because this thing is happening. Now, during this period, much like I talked about Job, who was trying to figure out why bad things were happening to him, I searched myself to find out, did I do something that caused all of this? Was there some bad stain in my past that I did that I should be getting this type of, you know, problem? And I prayed and cried out to God, because during the time I was a Christian now, I was a Christian then. I cried out to God saying, why? And how long is this gonna last? This was 5 years of me believing, well, okay, maybe things will get better. Because he would. He'd get better for a little while. He'd be sober for a little while. But then it would go back. And the truth of the matter is I really believe he wanted to get better. But the drugs had control over him. And it was a demon that I couldn't compete with. There was nothing I could do. I tried everything. I did all the meetings of the Nar-Nar-Non and all those different kind of groups. None of that. I mean, it benefited for the moment, but it didn't take me through the duration. Okay, so like I said, I kept going to anybody that would listen. So my church family kept saying to me, because I shared it with my church family, and let me tell you something about church people. Sometimes they get on the nerves. They will say, girl, hey, you know, be strong. God's going to prepare you for whatever's coming. Okay? But this is the thing, they meant well, but it meant nothing to me at the time. Because I'm dealing with this kind of stuff. So no, that didn't help me. All right, I'm gonna carry on. I thought I had 25 minutes.
He said you have 5 minutes left.
I know, but he 25 total. Okay, bye. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get towards this, since time is limited. This is why I wanted to die. Because I felt like if I am not here anymore, I don't have to deal with this. You know, I just want to be gone. I even got to the point where I just wish to go crazy, meaning that they would say, oh my goodness, you know, Ro has gone crazy, we're gonna have to put her away because then I wouldn't have to deal with it. You know, and I felt that people would feel sorry for me, like they were feeling sorry for him, saying, you know, he's got a disease and he did. But I didn't care about that because I was being hurt by whatever he had. So I wanted people to say to me, oh, I feel bad for you, but they weren't. Be strong, be encouraged, God's got you. Sometimes you don't feel that. Sometimes you just want to break. All right, so let me talk about the things that you should do when you get through, and I'm having to skip through some things that I wanted to share. All right, these are 3 things I want you to take away. First of all, I want you to know, this is not part of the 3, but I'm setting it up for the 3. Things happen, life can get hard, it can get ugly. You're gonna feel like you wanna die sometimes. You're gonna feel like there is no more bending, I just wanna break. That happens. But see, for me, God wouldn't let me break. I wanted to with all my might. I wanted to just give up and just go crazy and people just come cart me away. But he wouldn't let it happen. I kept my sanity through that whole period. I kept the stability for my children during that whole period. I don't even know how I was functioning. So that's why I knew it had to be God. Because I didn't want to function. I wanted to break. So when you get to a point like that, if you get to a point like that, and if you're human, it's probably going to happen. It may not be a drug addicted husband, praise God, I hope it doesn't, but other challenges will enter your life. So the first thing to do is bend towards living water. See, the illustration of the weeping willow tree was primarily focused on its ability to bend without breaking. So what's important to note is that when the willow tree bends, it's bending towards its source, water. We, those of us who are Christians, we have a living source. It's called the Holy Spirit. It's in us. That's where we get our refreshment. That's our water source. So like the weeping willow that's bending into its source, we need to bend towards God. Now, if you don't know him, and if you leave here today without somebody even mentioning it, shame on us, okay? Because we want you to know that you don't have to go through this alone. Your girlfriends and all of those folks in your family, they're fine. But the only one who can stay the course with you is God. So you bend towards living water. All right, when you feel your bending is leading to a break, you consider that weeping willow tree that leans towards its source, water. You know, Jesus Christ offered the woman at the well living water, so she would never thirst again. We don't have to go through this parched period not believing that God is going to give us some refreshment because we have living water. Second thing, resist self-reliance. Okay, in other words, stop thinking that you can handle this. That's what I thought. For a while before I got to the point of wanting to die and just break, I was like, okay, I got this. Okay, if I do this, it'll get better. Okay, if I, make him feel better about himself, it'll get better. I was depending on my ability. I didn't have it. Flesh. This stuff changes. Look, I'm 70 years old. So I am looking in the mirror every day, seeing something else changing. I was sitting in a meeting yesterday and all of a sudden my skin looked like it was crumpling and I thought, what? Is this happening? Okay, but it's happening. It is happening. So eventually, if you live long enough, you're going to also see signs of getting closer, if you know Jesus, being with him, okay? So, we're flesh, we don't have the strength, we don't have the ability to save ourselves. We have to depend on a source that's stronger to us. So, stop trying to do life by yourself. If you attempt to do it, you will have burnout, and burnout leads to brokenness. So in Matthew 11, 28 and 30, Jesus offers to give rest to those who are weary and burdened. Yes. The prevention plan for burnout, meaning burnout that resulted from you just thinking that you can handle everything and you can fix everything, is to rest in Jesus and follow his direction for life. The last thing, squash those doubts. See, don't allow Satan to make you buy into his lies and yours. Okay, because some stuff you done been lying to yourself. Okay, those things cause you to doubt God's presence in your life. So when doubts override truth, and the truth I'm talking about is the truth that comes with the knowledge of God, the knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's the truth. We can overcome those doubts with faith, but you can only get faith one way, the kind of faith I'm talking about, through having a relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay? You can have faith in people, faith in things and all of that, but the only faith that endures is the relationship that we have with the Lord. Yeah. So you gotta have faith, because when the doubts come in, and they will, you gotta have something to counterattack those doubts. And you can only do that by going to the Bible, the Word we call it, and looking at the things that God has already done, what He's doing, and what He's going to do. That restores your faith. You know, I fall off the wagon all the time. You know, I've been in a relationship with God now almost 40 years. All those years weren't me being a minister, a preacher like I am. Some of those years I fell off the wagon so completely that people didn't even recognize that I belonged to God. It happens. Okay? But the good thing about it is God is always waiting for you to get back on. Okay, squash those doubts. God is faithful. He's demonstrated His works in the past, so you have reason to trust Him. Now, bent, not broken, you decide. You decide whether you're going to let life's inconveniences and sometimes life's devastation cause you to break. You have to decide that for yourself.